Hello everyone. In a previous video I showed the process of framing this wall segment in my basement as an insulation box and support structure for installing my solar inverter and batteries. I put slack on this cable here, it's not really holding anything. If I grab the handles on the side, I can't budge it. The wall bracket for the other battery is there. This battery is attached to its wall bracket that's behind it. So my mock-up is complete. I'm ready to take it all down now and take the mounting brackets off the wall and go ahead and start putting the wallboard up. So I've gotten a good start on getting this insulation put in. That's what the mineral wool batts look like. I just thought I'd show you a little bit, so I saved this part for videoing. These gaps here were perfect. The width of the rock wool fit in there perfectly. This gap here is only 12 inches, so I'm going to have to cut these down to 12-inch strips to fill that bay. And then this bay is even smaller, maybe 6 inches. So I've got to do the same thing and cut some narrow strips down to fill that bay. That one is even narrower. And that's another maybe 6-inch bay. So this is going to be fun. I didn't think you'd want to see me do the entire thing. I'll just give you a little sample of what I'm doing. Mineral wool isn't as itchy as fiberglass, but it can be a little uncomfortable breathing it after a little while. So I'm wearing a mask, gloves, long sleeves, just like I would do with fiberglass insulation. Rock wool, you really don't want to breathe it. So I'm cutting my 12-inch wide pieces to start just by making a mark with a utility knife. There. There. And then using an edge guide for the blade to guide my cut. Push down on it. This blade could probably stand to be a little sharper. It's getting pretty dull. Yeah. It'll be okay once I squeeze it in there. And there's a Romex cable running across there about 12 inches up, so I'm going to cut halfway through this. On the wrong side. This is just to give that Romex cable a channel through the insulation. This edge is kind of jagged. I'm going to tuck it in here first. Cut it a little loose, so I'll have to stuff some in here. Just to help to hold it. 12 inches is too narrow. So it didn't work too well with that guide. I'm going to try this one. I'm cutting them 13 inches this time instead of 12. I'm using this angle iron as a cutting guide because I can get more compression out of it. And that'll give me a much cleaner cut. That's better. Okay, this one's going to be 43.5 inches because that's what I need to get up to the top rail. That's better. Nice snug fit. All the way to the top. And there's a gap behind it. So the air can circulate up behind it. Between the vapor barrier, the vapor retarder, and the back of the insulation. There's like an inch space. I cut myself on one of these ears sticking out. They are very sharp. So to prevent that, I'm going to wrap them with duct tape. Because I've got to stuff the insulation in here around them. I don't want to get cut again. It wasn't a bad cut. Just a little band-aid cut there. No big deal. But I don't need to make a habit of it. Also bend those around. Make sure they're out of the way. That'll work. All the way in there. It's 7¼ inches wide. Got to go all the way back in there on both sides. I spent a lot of time measuring, remeasuring, and laying out the marks for drilling and cutting the surface of this hardy board.
Yep.
That's pretty good. So I marked the 4 spots where I'm going to drill a hole that will align with the studs on the wall. The size of the hole though is going to be bigger than the 3/8 I made for those because it has to go around the nut. It's got to clear the nut. So that's going to be almost 3/4 of an inch. I don't know if I even have a bit for that. I'll have to check. And from that end to the box, 35.5. And up is 17 3/4. I'm using a hammer drill, so face mask, eye protection, ear protection. I'm not actually hammer drilling, but these SDS carbide bits are the best I have for drilling cement board. Seems like it's not in hammer drilling mode and I don't need it. This stuff is soft enough. Notice my finger's not on the trigger. That's 5/8. I think that's the biggest hammer drill bit I have. It's a carbide. But that's okay because the hole's a lot bigger. Got to put a penetration here because I'm going to cut this out with a jigsaw. Oh good, it's right on the edge there. This is actually an aluminum blade. It's for cutting aluminum. I watched some YouTubes to try to find out what is the best blade for cutting cement board. One guy tested a bunch of blades and he found that aluminum works good. Well, I gotta say, he was right. That is a smooth cut. I've got the blade speed set down to a pretty low speed. And there's an adjustment for how far the blade advances. I got that down only on the first notch. Usually I'm on 2 or 3 for cutting wood. Well, let's see how we did. All the bolt holes line up pretty good, but I made a stupid mistake on the outlet box hole. They line up good there. But the bottom of the box lines up with the top of the hole. Alright. So I put the top of the box where the bottom should be. So this should be up 4 inches higher. Darn it. That's going to show too. Oh well. I'm just going to have to increase the size of that hole, move it up another 4 inches. So all the holes actually hit right. It's just this is almost 4 inches too low. So I got to extend this hole up here. And then later on I'll make a repair piece for it to cover that up. Okay, good. Didn't quite line up with the nut, so I had to bust it out there. Jam that nut right through. It'll be the same way here. That is amazingly solid. These are called backer-on or rock-on screws. They have a coating on them to protect them from the cement. T25 bit included. They're good for wood stud or plywood or steel frame. 26 to 20 gauge. These are 25 gauge, so these screws should be good for this. Amazing. It's amazing how rigid that got. So the blades I'm using are Bosch T127D. They're a T-Shank blade, special for aluminum. So these are made specifically to cut aluminum. And I have this Bosch 1584 VS variable speed. I have this set down around 5, so it's not full speed. And this thing, the blade doesn't just go straight up and down like you might think. There's an adjustable kick here that kicks the blade 0, 1, 2, or 3. So when the blade goes down, it kicks forward and then pulls up. So that's how aggressive it's going to cut. If it kicks on the 3 setting, it's going to be a more aggressive cut than on the 0 setting. But I'm using this on the first setting, number 1, and 5 speed. So slow with a very mild, non-aggressive kick on the blade, and just taking it slow so I don't overheat the blade and wear it out prematurely. And it's also giving me a really nice smooth cut. Good. Those holes are in a good position. Get that to line up on the edge. Yeah, these are pretty much perfect. So now I need to mark the holes that are up here above it. Right here. And I think I'm going to just do that with a hammer. The marks made by the bolts when I hit the other side with the hammer were actually very faint. So I outlined them with a pencil just so it's easier to see. In order to get a more accurate position here on the bit when you start drilling, just do this. It'll start it in the spot you want it. Okay, so that's fitting pretty good, like just about perfect. There's one more adjustment I have to make to this. This part of the wall up here will be covered with green board drywall. And in order to have a place to screw it to, I need to cut this back. So I'm going to mark the height here. Then I just need to cut this back all the way down about 1.25 inches, just to give room here for the drywall. The drywall needs to get screwed to this stud. This part here will be screwed to this stud. So it'll be plenty well supported. That's center. 1 and 3/32 on each side. I happen to have a 4x4 piece of green drywall left over. It's the green board, 1/2 inch. So that's what I'm going to use here. That's 38 5/8 by 37 3/4. Score it with a utility knife. Make sure you're all the way through the paper. And then just break it. And use the knife to cut the back layer of paper off. I don't know if I can reach all the way under there. That's just the initial one to hang it from. This has keyhole slots in the back of it. One up near the top here for that screw. How about this way? That's just about dead on. Okay, I'll take that. So the plan is that I'm going to be running power out of this panel. I'm going to remove the air conditioning double pole breaker here and put a 100 amp breaker in and feed the 100 amp breaker through a cable out from here into here. So this panel will be supplying the power for this sub panel, and it'll also be backing it up because this is a transfer panel. Then I have to move all these circuits, the other 15 circuits that are in here need to get moved into here. So this panel will never be overloaded. This breaker that's here will never be overloaded. This transfer panel will never be overloaded because it's feeding a 100 amp panel. It's a 100 amp transfer panel. And by the way, the breaker in the main panel that feeds this panel is 70 amps. And the breaker that feeds from the generator is 65 amps. So this thing's limited to 65 or 70 amps depending on if the grid's down or the generator's down. But it's still, I've got a 100 amp breaker. I'm going to run from here to over here to cover all these loads until the inverter is installed. Once the panel is being powered by the inverter, I'm going to have a transfer switch here, an interlock, so that you're either on this main breaker or this 100 amp breaker here. And there'll be an interlock so that if the inverter goes down or there's a problem, I can just turn it off, switch on, transfer it over, move the interlock, turn the main on, and it'll get power from here. So the backup is the grid being hot. If the grid goes down and the inverter's down, then we have no backup. But under normal circumstances, this breaker getting power from the grid will be off, and this breaker getting power from the inverter will be on. So that's how that's going to work. Let's give this a try.
As we'll see, it's not as difficult to mount the batteries on the wall brackets as most others have presented it.
Yeah, perfect, it's in there. Even without that rope. So I need to get the mounting bolts in these holes back here. You can see there. And there.
It would be easier to access these bolts with the plastic side covers removed from the battery. But I didn't bother with that since I'd only have to put them back on again until I'm ready to commission the system, which won't be for a few weeks.
You're not going to be able to see it as I do it because it's obviously tight quarters there and I can't get the camera in there and my wrench at the same time. But I'll record as much as I can. There's a good possibility these little bolts are metric, but 5/16 socket seems like it's going to work okay. Starting with the bottom because that one lines right up. That's very well started. Now for the top. It seems like I need to push the top back a little bit here. The whole battery was kind of cocked out a little bit this way, so I used the appliance dolly, lifted this up a little and pushed it back the bottom bracket was flexible enough to pull out that far, but the top bracket, the top part of the bracket won't be. So now I'm pretty much flat against the wall here. Let's see if I can get this started. A little bit more. Needs a little bit more. I'm going to loosen the nuts up that hold the bracket to the wall. And I should be able to get just a little bit of movement out of it and get things to line up. Well, it took a little finagling, but I got them all started. They're actually, all four of them are snugged down, 2 on each side. So now that they're started and snugged, I can retighten these nuts against the wall bracket. I'm going to leave this other bracket loose. I'm going to loosen these nuts up, put the battery in, get their bracket bolts started, and then I can tighten these up again. That's the way to do it. It's tight. That's tight. Now I'll get the 2 on the other side. It's very solid. The wall's solid, the battery's solidly mounted. It's not going anywhere. These small screws that come with it. Screws or tiny bolts, whatever you want to call them. That went on kind of crooked, kind of cross-threaded. Okay, I'll try a stubby screwdriver. That's better. But again, just get them started. Don't snug them down yet, because there's 2 more that need to line up in the back. That one looks like it'll be okay. And it is. Now I can tighten them down. These must be metric. I don't have a good size socket for them with me. I'll just tighten them with a little screwdriver.
I used the lifting ropes that came with the batteries for this. Each of them can lift more than 300 pounds, so 2 of them can easily lift the 120-pound inverter. I also used the same little winch that was seen in my solar freight receiving video. I'm not sure of its weight capacity, but I've seen similar ones rated at 1,500 pounds.
Just keeping the cardboard between the front of the battery and the conduit box. And these hangers on the back here, which could really scratch that paint up, could gouge it up pretty bad.
But it handled those batteries going downstairs, so it can easily handle the weight of the inverter.
Alright, let's see how this goes. That plastic is on there just to keep the fallout from that winch is really dirty and rusty. I don't want all that falling down in here or in here, so I've got the plastic on them. Nope. So the impact has a shorter body. I can probably get a little more done here. Not short enough. I can slide the winch back that way a little bit. It's bolted on a 2x4 that's resting across these purlins. That's as far back as I can go because it's hitting the gas pipe. Careful. Okay, it needs to go over that way some. Some being about an inch. So I can slide this 2x4 over that way about an inch. Boy, that shook a whole bunch of crap down on this plastic. Touch to higher. Touch too high. I got it. Yeah. Not much weight on this winch anymore. Gotta go that way just a tad. There, that's about perfect. Time to get this plastic out of here. Okay, just like when I mocked it up, I'll put a couple of these plugs in here just to hold things in alignment. And if you didn't see when I mocked it up, that would be the previous video from this one. Okay. 4 bolts that line up here and hold the inverter, screw the inverter to the top of the conduit box. Okay, they're all started. They're all snug. Now I'm going to tighten them down. I've got the battery against the bracket. It's lined up. I just have to lift it and push it back a little and it should fall into place. Yeah, perfect. That wasn't so bad. I don't know why everyone thinks these 300-pound batteries are so hard to handle. All you need is a good appliance truck. These batteries are supposed to be a minimum of 12 inches apart, and I have just about 13 inches. Close. Well above 12 inches though. So I did loosen the wall mounting bracket on the wall so it can move a little bit. I'm using this little nail set as a drift to pull everything into alignment. Then I can get these started. This actually needs to go back a little. These fell into place a lot easier than the other battery. I got all 4 of them in and started. Now it's time to tighten the nuts that hold the bracket to the wall. That's tight. Now I'll get the 2 on the other side. Everything's solidly attached and supported. These things are certainly not going to fall over.
Next, I'll be working on transferring circuits from the transfer panel to the new critical loads panel. You can see here I already started on that. I won't be videoing that process, but I will video the next steps on the EG4 components wiring. That will be here on Man About Home. Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like and subscribe.